Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host Dianne Christensen. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host Dianne Christensen.
Welcome to the program. I'm Dianne Christensen. Agriculture and farming has been the backbone of our state and, of course, our country for generations. It's what puts food on our table. But now we have backyard farmers. Are you one of them, or would you like to become one of them? As we maybe are concerned about our food source and where we're going to be feeding or how we're going to feed our families, a lot of people are resorting to their own selves, their own backyards, their own potted plants and tomatoes and squash and corn. If you're one of them, the Bernalillo County Cooperative Extension Services has a program for you. It is growing and cooking service. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think dark green leafy greens, squash, and tomatoes have in common? Well, they're all part of this program. And you can sign up and learn how you can grow your own food to make your family healthy, happy, and safe. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
The National Education Association of New Mexico, a union of teachers and school staff, believes every child deserves to learn at a school that inspires their imagination, cultivates their curiosity, and ensures a fulfilling life. Public schools should provide all our students with small class sizes and one-on-one attention. NEA New Mexico asks you to join us so together we can end the teacher and staff shortage and invest in our public education system once and for all. Sponsored by NEA New Mexico.
One of them. I'm not one of those backyard gardeners at this point. You know, people have loved to grow beautiful flowers in their yards, and here in this New Mexico climate, yes, it is possible not just to have desert plants, but now they're growing some more productive things that they can eat, not just something that's beautiful to see and smell and have in your home, but something that can help feed your family. Could be the way of the times because of the pandemic. More people had time to do some of their backyard gardening, and now concerned about the safety of their food and if they'll get food. I don't mean to be too scary about this, but a lot of us think about feeding our families and where will the food come from. Right. And no one thinks of it more than Cindy Davies, right, Cindy? Yeah. She is with the Bernalillo County Extension Service Program. Yes. She's been the director for a number of years, now retired, but now she is a family and consumer science agent who specializes in food preservation. Thank you so much, Cindy Davies, being part of the program. Yeah. And Dianne Christensen, who has all these great ideas and is very mindful in the way that she lives and teaches courses through the Extension Service, is here, and she brought Cindy with her. So thank you so much for being here, Dianne Christensen. Cindy, things have changed. Yeah. Tell me how they've changed and how, again, we're going to talk about how the Bernalillo County Cooperative Extension is helping the change, but you've seen a change in our society.
Right. Well, and I think the pandemic made people nervous that they were dependent on everything, and they realized that they could grow some of the food that they wanted to eat, and all of a sudden it kind of took some of the scariness out of growing food, and they can grow something besides flowers or herbs. They can actually grow things their family can eat. So,
but you saw the pandemic again. Working through the extension, classes were popular, but they became even more because people were figuring, look how dependent. And when they take it away from government, takes things away from us, we have to depend on ourselves.
Right. We can learn how to grow things, just like people have done since the dawn of time. Is you've had to learn how to grow your own food or hunt your own food.
So in Bernalillo County, those of us who live here, enjoy living here, the climate can be kind of harsh, but people can have their backyards or their potted tomatoes. Right. But they're doing more of that now.
Right, and a lot of people are turning their yards into gardens. And so instead of just having green grass that is lovely, but it isn't very productive and uses a lot of water, how can we turn that into something that is useful for us and feeding other people? So a lot of people have turned their yards into gardens, which is kind of cool. Yeah, we're seeing that more and more.
When deciding on courses, Dianne Christensen at the Extension Services, you've had growing and cooking for years, but you're finding they're more popular?
Well, actually, we just did one class called Growing and Cooking with Herbs. And it was a lovely collaboration between our horticulture agent, who knows all about the growing, and then Cindy and I, who know about cooking. And so that class was so popular. As I was planning for the summer, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a series? So we're going to be doing Growing and Cooking with dark leafy greens. That's coming up Wednesday, June 8th. Then in July, we're going to be Growing and Cooking with tomatoes, or excuse me, squash, Growing and Cooking with squash in July. And then in August, when we have a plethora of tomatoes, we thought we'll learn how to grow and cook those in August.
Fantastic. So starting with the green leafy, people may have missed that, but they're watching the show now. I'm going to hand this back to Cindy.
Sure.
This is kale you brought for us.
Right.
So growing leafy dark greens, what did you bring? And we can grow these here in New Mexico.
What I brought, I did purchase this at the grocery store this morning, but what I brought were things that we can also grow. So there's a lot of things in New Mexico that just flat out don't grow well because of our dry climate and our environment. So that's kind of why we chose the 3 topics we chose for the summer, because people have pretty good luck growing greens, squash, and tomatoes. So that's kind of why we're talking about this. But greens, if you ever go to the grocery store and just stand in the greens aisle for a while, you'll see at least 6 different kinds of greens there. And
show us what you brought.
Okay, so these are 2 different types of kale, and this is a curly leaf kale, but it's also quite red if you can see it. So you would look at this and not realize that it's from the same
Hold them
family.
both up a little high. There you go.
So this is a flat leaf kale and a curly leaf kale. Kale is one of those superfoods that we're told is good for you and you should eat it. Most people don't like it, so we're going to try to help you find ways that it tastes better so you'll enjoy it. Right?
And it's not a lettuce.
It is not a lettuce, no. The darker the green, the more nutrient dense food is. And so all of the foods that I brought here, including spinach, which is very common, everybody knows spinach. And this is chard, which is probably the prettiest of the greens to grow.
And sometimes I look at that, I think it's rhubarb. Okay, that's chard.
It's chard, yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, those can all grow in New Mexico, and they're all very, very nutritious. And so low calorie, high nutrient dense foods. A lot of people are familiar with different kinds of greens. I picked this up today too. This is the power greens, and it's been a fad for the last several years to make a green drink, a smoothie drink in the morning. So this is just a variety of about 4 or 5 different kinds of greens. So you can buy that as well. Or if you grow it, you can put them together and have, you know.
And you brought the baby spinach.
Yeah, the baby spinach is one thing about greens that sometimes people prefer to buy them than to grow them, because they do get very dirty and gritty. So you really need to wash your greens well. But spinach is one of those greens that
So I have a question with this, because I do buy it, I don't grow it, but we're talking about growing and cooking. With the spinach, I find it gets the bottom very moist if I don't use it right away. So is it better to open it up and kind of get the air?
Give it a little, yeah. And even
Because
if
it's pretty condensed and there's a lot in there, but when you get to the bottom, it's...
You can even put a paper towel kind of in between the layers to absorb it, so it's not quite so, it doesn't spoil as quickly for you. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I just eat it in salads, so I don't cook.
Right.
And I don't grow it, so...
Right.
Do you cook that?
Yes, and in fact, there's a lot of greens that are much better cooked than fresh. Spinach is one of the little light ones that makes lovely salads, and you can eat those fresh. But to just tear off a piece of kale and chew on it, you probably feel like you're eating grass, you know? So you need to learn how to cook it a bit so you can enjoy it.
So how do you cook? It's true. I've eaten kale in a salad. I don't like this.
Yeah.
So what you cook it, then it's more like a vegetable, cooked vegetable?
Right. And a lot of times your greens are sauteed. You're going to cook them with a little onion, a little garlic. If you use a little vinegar in it, that will kind of cut some of the bitterness of the plant. And so there are tricks and ways that you can cook these things that will really be quite lovely. And people eat these all over the world. Huh?
Give us the trick.
Okay, sauteing is one of them. Steaming is another one. And in our class on Wednesday, I'm going to show people how to use their Instapot to cook their greens, because sometimes the greens really need to be cooked longer than the short period that we want things pretty instant in our society. But some things, if you cook them longer, you've really got a lovely product at the end. So I'm going to show people how to do that too.
But you're going to tell us now, sauteing with butter? Are we sauteing?
Yeah, you're probably going to be better off using a little olive oil or something that has a little bit of a smoke point so it doesn't burn on the bottom so
supposed to be
quickly.
better for our health too. I've just read.
Yeah,
So
avocado
butter
oils. There's wonderful oils available, so yeah.
Okay.
But we want you to be healthy, so this is our attempt, right, Diane?
Yes.
And what was the smaller one? Did we look at that?
This is
Oh,
just
that's
spinach.
the spinach,
Yeah.
which I just
Uh-huh.
ate. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Right.
and the collards, cooked, sauteed that as well.
Collards, turnip greens,
But then you just
mustard
kind of have
greens.
Isn't it just a mush on your plate? Mush of wet soup, wet.
If it is, you're probably cooking it wrong. So we're hoping to
Okay.
teach people how to cook it right so it isn't mush soup on their plate.
Yes, yes.
It's good. Secret of squash. What's the secret of squash? Do you know any secrets of squash, Dianne Christensen? Do you?
Oh gosh, I remember when I was a newlywed, I had a garden and I had like lumber-sized zucchinis. But that's something that you can make zucchini bread. You can shred it up and freeze and make zucchini bread through the year. But we make a lot of calabacitas. That's a New Mexican dish that's really incorporates the green chili and the wonderful corn that comes at that time of year, and then your zucchini. And there's several different kinds. There's actually calabacitas squash, and then there's yellow squash, and then zucchini. And to make all of those into calabacitas, what are some recipes you like to use for squash?
Well, I like to do a lot of things with lightly cooked or sautéed squash, and then cooking it in casseroles and using it in just a variety of things, chopping it up with other vegetables and blending it. And squash is interesting, and I'm not sure that we'll be able to find the winter squash when we do our class, but squash is something that you can cook with all year round, because there are winter squash that we can grow. And they tend to be
Butternut squash?
Yes,
Butternut?
they tend to be a little bit more meaty, like a pumpkin or almost potato-like. So we'll talk about that in our classes and just how you can use all that. But we're really focusing on what you can grow in the garden this summer. So we're going to talk about what to do with all that squash once you grow it.
Now, that class will be Wednesday, July 13th, Wednesday, July 13th, 9
Correct.
to 11:30. By the time they see the show, that class may have
Right.
passed. So you'll give them some tips. But growing, what part of the season do they start putting the seeds in the ground, or should they grow it first in your house, the seeds? Or?
They should have already planted their gardens by now. It's June 6th. Yeah, so they should have it growing. But if you are getting a late start, you can start by getting your seeds going in your house and then transplanting them into a bigger space in your yard. And especially some of the later or fall vegetables, you should be fine.
So squash should have been a lot of these in probably May, because we had the
Right.
freeze season.
Right. They say that Mother's Day is a pretty good indicator of when to plant your garden, because most of the times we don't get a freeze after Mother's Day, though.
That's around
With our weather, you never know.
That's May 16th or so.
Yeah, right.
To have it planted. Deep, do you put the seeds in deep into the ground for the squash?
Right. You need to do a little preparation for your garden to plant squash and all of these vegetables. And that's why we're teaching the classes with our horticulture agent, Sarah Moran-Duran, who is excellent at telling people how to actually grow. There's a little bit more to gardening than just putting a seed in the ground. And that's kind of the level of gardening, Diane, that I tend to be. So I totally need need Sarah's help.
And what's interesting, Diane, to have this, and again, these are our cooperative extension services that a lot of the classes are free that are offered. Some of them have a $20 lab fee for canning jars and whatnot, but again, taxpayers do pay for this service, so why not log on and find out what you're offering?
Yeah, and this particular class, we're doing something new. It's called hybrid. And that's where you can come in person, and we're going to have Sarah come and talk about growing the vegetables, and then we'll be talking about the nutrition. We have a lovely intern from UNM that's going to talk about nutrition, and then we'll be giving some cooking tips. So you can watch all of that on Zoom if you're more comfortable with that. The people who come in person will be part of that live class, and then at the end of the educational part, we'll move to the lab and actually cook some recipes. And so all of these classes will be available hybrid. So you can either attend in person and do the lab, or you're very welcome to attend by Zoom and get the educational
lesson
section.
part.
The lesson part, yeah.
Can you take the Zoom class other than the 9 to 11:30? I mean, do you save them online and they can maybe see the class another time?
Record
Are they
the
archived?
Yes, we could record them, yes. A lot of times we do record and we post them online for people who didn't get a chance, couldn't come at that time.
So there are some classes now online that they can find archived?
Yes. If you go to our website, bernalilloextension.nmsu.edu, you'll be able to see just a lot of resources that are available.
And you'll say that one more time, I think we have it.
Oh, okay. bernalilloextension.nmsu.edu is where you'll find our website to check out all our classes. And we do new classes every quarter. So jump on or be part of our mailing list, and we can keep you up to date about classes we're offering.
And then some archived if you haven't been able to catch up.
And also, New Mexico State University has a tremendous library of classes that they have recorded, especially throughout the pandemic. That if you name a topic, and I bet there's a video on it if people are interested in learning all sorts of growing techniques, cooking techniques, all these things. So.
And that's what you said, a lot of this comes from New Mexico State. There are things that are proven, documented, and researched based. Correct, Diane?
Yes, that's the advantage of extension, is everything is research-based and evidence-based. And so you know what you're getting through extension is solid, and you can count on it.
Getting back to squashes.
Yes.
So I've baked squash.
Yes.
Is it, instead of a potato, does it have the starch and everything that potatoes have? Because potatoes, the white potatoes, or even red, are not good for our diets in our community of pre-diabetes. So what about squash?
Squash is a low-carb vegetable, and so it really doesn't have the same properties of a potato or whatever.
It is a low
When we're
carb.
talking about zucchini and that kind of thing, the winter squashes, though, are
A higher starch.
Yeah, but higher carb count. Which doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can't have them. It's just that you have to you're keeping count of your carbs, so you don't have too many. So
No, it's the winter
summer
squash I'm talking
squashes
about. Okay, what are the summer squashes then that I
Summer
don't?
squashes would be zucchini,
And yellow squash, yeah.
calabasitas, that type of thing, and that's what we're going to focus on. But we'll probably talk about the winter squashes. But the winter squashes are very good butternut. Some of those, it's just that they are higher in carbs. So if you are...
I thought so. I thought that was
Too good to be true, right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Moving on to tomatoes. Growing and cooking with them, but let's start with when should people start to grow them? Have them in there?
Yeah, they should be in the ground by mid-May, and then tomatoes typically take 70 to 90 days to start producing fruit. So you'll see them later in the summer, and that's why if you have a dozen tomatoes, you probably have 200 tomatoes, because once they get going, they are just prolific. And so people call us and say, what do I do with 100 pounds of tomatoes? So
I say give them to your neighbors who don't grow
leave them on the door and run away.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about, Sarah will talk about growing tomatoes, and which tomato varieties grow well here, and just give a little information on varieties of tomatoes. And then Diane and I will have a lab on how to cook and prepare. We will also do some fresh tomato dishes, but we'll cook some too. So
Nothing can be better than a fresh tomato. I never really liked it. Is it a fruit or is it a vegetable?
It's actually a fruit, but USDA deemed it a vegetable years ago because it was used in cooking in the way that most fruits weren't. So it's kind of one of those confusing things, but you call it whatever you want, but it's a good thing to have. And those are very low in carbs, so that's a nice.
Except for kids, because it's a vegetable, but I think, so it is a fruit.
It is, yeah, technically with the seeds, the way the seeds are.
I think if a kid thought it was a fruit, they would probably eat it.
Yeah, maybe so, yeah.
Right? Doesn't it take a little maturing and the taste buds to appreciate the freshness of a tomato?
Probably. I appreciate it more as an adult than I ever did as a kid.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I remember a quick little story. My neighbor grew tomatoes in a pot with a vine, and he reached over the fence, and I had my son Kenneth, who was maybe 3 years old, in my arms, and the neighbor reached over, gave us a tomato, and my son took it and started eating it, and I thought, that's a waste of a good homegrown tomato and a kid who doesn't know the difference between the taste. I mean, those in the grocery store, even the farmer market grocery, don't have any flavor.
Yeah. Not
Why
like
is that?
homegrown. I think they have to pick them early to ship them, is why. And so if you let the tomato ripen on the vine to ripeness, it just gets all the sugars and all the flavors in that tomato, and you just really cannot beat the flavor of a good homegrown tomato.
I think that neighbor, he had so many tomatoes, he just ate them with tomatoes for breakfast, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
And just tomatoes and cheese.
Yeah.
That's what I had. So what are some of the dishes, Dianne Christensen, to fresh, non-cooked tomato dishes?
Well, I've been collecting recipes actually. We have some caprese, that's with fresh mozzarella and basil. That's always a delicious, very easy salad to have in the
It's just
summer.
sliced, and I've had that.
Yes, yeah, just a little bit of balsamic and olive oil on top with some.
It's just sliced tomatoes.
The
caprese.
the fresh mozzarella, and then some basil, and then a lot of times I'll drizzle balsamic vinegar and a little bit of olive oil over the top of it. That's a delicious one. And it's always a really great time. I had a friends, they moved unfortunately, but he was a tremendous gardener. But I love to make spaghetti sauce in the summer and then freeze it for the winter. And so I would always cook up a big batch of spaghetti sauce and
With fresh tomatoes.
Yeah, because sometimes you get them, and I know he would give me some that were kind of, they were a little
perfect.
They weren't perfect, and so they go great in all kinds of things that stews, soups, spaghetti sauce, things you can put up and freeze to have in the
Or
winter. Or can, yeah. Cindy cans tomatoes a lot as well, and you can spaghetti sauce too, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
Is a very acidic. Are tomatoes very acidic?
They are pretty acidic.
So then you need the high pressure canning.
Yeah.
With that. Any fresh food that you like? I appreciate the caprese salad that you like with a fresh tomato.
I really like to make fresh salsa. And fresh salsa with fresh tomatoes and fresh jalapenos it's hard to beat. And in our New Mexican culture, we live on salsa, right?
What do you put in your salsa? Give us a secret, Cindy.
I really like garlic and onion. The
base is, though, the tomato.
The base is the tomato, the jalapeno, or you could use green chili or both, or a mix of all the different peppers that you grow in your garden. You can do that too.
But onion?
Onion. And then I like a little cilantro in it. You can use it with or without that, but you can make fresh cilantro and enjoy it, or you can preserve it. You can can it. So there's lots of things you can do with that.
But the salsa, the fresh salsa with the tomatoes is good. I sometimes don't like the onion because it sticks with me. So I put in, what is it? I think mango maybe. Mango instead of onion. So it's more of a mango salsa. But
Fruit salsa.
Fruit salsa. What cooked dishes do you teach in the class regarding tomatoes?
I think we're going to do a cooked tomato with usually the small cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes. You can cook that with feta cheese, and it makes a wonderful spread that you can put over pasta or bread. You can add other vegetables to it. I think that's just one of those go-to dishes that is very, very tasty. So,
What's another one, Diane? Cooking. Now we're talking cooking, not your Caprese salad.
It's similar to her, and I love it. It's with, let's see, burrata cheese, which is similar to mozzarella, but a little bit differently. But you actually roast the tomatoes, and then you toss it with, I believe it was spinach, and has a little bit of a sauce, and then you put this lovely burrata cheese, and you serve it over pasta, and that is delicious. So roasting tomatoes, along with all of your other vegetables, that's a really healthy way to live. I know that in the summer, I just have a jelly roll pan, and I just pick out whatever is at the grocery store, and then I roast it maybe on Sunday, and then I have vegetables throughout the week. And
Roasting it on your stove?
Yes, you can certainly do it on the grill as well, but I just put it in the oven.
Oh, in the oven?
In the oven at about 425 for 20 minutes, and you just kind of cook it until it's the consistency that you like. You just want to make sure, though, that you have vegetables that are similar density. So you wouldn't want to cook sweet potatoes with a mushroom, for example, or you just add the mushrooms at the end. But you want to kind of pick vegetables that have a similar density so they cook.
Great tips. Dianne Christensen, Family and Consumer Science Agent, thank you for being a part of this program. And Cindy Davies, also an agent with the Extension Program, a retired director here. You get the final word to encourage people to grow.
Yeah, grow and enjoy it and learn how to use it so you're not leaving it on the neighbor's doorstep and running away because you don't know what to do with it. You can truly enjoy and preserve some of the things that you can't eat immediately. So we encourage you to come and learn about that in our classes.
Yeah, because you have the cooking and the growing and also the preserving class for all of these things, great things that you buy at the store, like me and like Diane, or grow in your garden, your backyard garden, or even start with a pot.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can grow a tomato plant on your back porch or on your patio if you live in an apartment or something.
Yep, that's what we like. Great. Thank you, ladies, so much for all that you're doing for our state and our community. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for watching the show. I'm Dianne Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thousands of young people are dying from counterfeit prescription drugs laced with lethal doses of fentanyl. Many of them thought they were taking a legitimate prescription drug. Can you tell the difference? Just one counterfeit pill laced with fentanyl can kill. And it did. Talk to your kids about the danger of fentanyl. Visit onepillkilled.org to learn more.
Issues and Answers with your host Dianne Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.